Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Article 10 TV, where tonight we're going to be talking about freedom of speech and what could possibly be our final battle for freedom. So, we do have a freedom of speech protest readied and in the making for the 13th of September. Hang on a minute. I've just got a bit of a problem there with the sound, and no problem, I got it back. So yeah, on September the 13th in London, and it is organised by primarily Tommy Robinson, but there is a growing group of Patriots as well. It's more of a movement than a Tommy Robinson rally. So like him or hate him, he's doing a lot of work in the world of journalism, and he's also pretty much leading the movement of the people. So whether you like to admit it or not, you know, if you want to be there and part of the movement, then you're going to have to be at a Tommy Robinson rally. Now, all of that aside, this is more than just about one person. This is about all of us. This is about all of our freedoms moving forward. And it's very important because this could well be our very last chance to, you know, stand up against this censorship that we're all facing at the moment. Hi Joanne, good to see you in the chat. So, what is it first? Well, it's a group of people like yourself, like myself, mums, dads, you know, hard-working taxpayers that are just basically fed up with the way that we're being treated, sick to death of not being able to speak about it, being censored, fear of being locked in jail if we say the wrong thing, not knowing what the right thing and the wrong thing are anymore, being called far-right extremists or thugs. You know, all of this is all part of a national, if even a global clampdown on freedom of speech, basically freedom of expression. You know, we've got Christians that are being arrested for praying inside their head outside abortion clinics. We've got mums that are being sent to jail for the best part of 4 years, just for making a tweet which wasn't really related to the violence. It was just something she said that was in the heat of the moment that she regretted shortly after and deleted, and yet she's faced 31 months in jail. She's been in jail for about a year now, since the Southport riots last July. You know, and as time goes by, more and more our freedoms are being ebbed away. They're being taken away from us, and they're using like a disguise to be able to do it. They're going, oh, the far right riots, we're going to have to stop people saying this, that and the other online. You know, we're looking at blasphemy laws coming in that we're going to protect Islam, and we're a Christian country. You know, we got rid of blasphemy laws a little while back that were protecting the Christian religion, and now it seems that that's being replaced with a Trojan horse, really, because we all know what's going on in real terms in the world. You know, there's the majority Muslim grooming gangs that have been going on for decades. We're not allowed to complain about that if the blasphemy laws come in. We're not going to be allowed to complain about any aspect of Islam because it will just be deemed as Islamophobic or racist or, you know, hate speech, and eventually we'll end up all locked up for showing our disgust with certain things with that. Now, I don't think that any religion should be above criticism. I don't think that any ideology should be above criticism. And I certainly don't think that people should be spending time in jail for expressing their views on anything. So, if you're one of them people, you like the fact that you've got the freedom to speak out about certain things, then you need to be there in London on the 13th of September. I'm going to be there. So are many other content creators from TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, X as well, quite prominent in the field of patriotism and speaking out against injustice and stuff at the moment. Then you're going to have all the auditors there. There's going to be a Christian group from New Zealand coming over. They're quite prominent as well. There's going to be journalists, independent journalists from Britain, from America, from Europe, and many other places present on the day. If you've got TikTok and you've seen Mrs. Kent on there, she's absolutely amazing. She was at Dover yesterday singing the song that she's done about Keir Starmer, Granny Harmer. You know, there's going to be so many people there. Even the young girl that was sent home from school for wearing a Union Jack dress and wanting to talk about her culture on Culture Day. Apparently it's only Culture Day if your culture is not British. So we're under attack from all angles, and it's disgusting, quite frankly, the way that the government are treating us. We've gone below and beneath third-class citizens in this country now. Freedom of speech is slowly becoming a thing of the past, and it's quite scary, really, the way the country's headed. So the only option we've got, apart from tearing the place apart and, you know, kicking these people out physically from the Houses of Parliament and saying you're sacked, is a movement like this, a peaceful protest like this, and they are always peaceful. You know, I've taken my son to one of them. He was quite surprised at how many people were there. There was a good 150,000, I think, maybe even more. They shut down the streets of London. Central London got completely shut down, basically, by just people like us turning up en masse. What does it do? Well, I hear a lot of comments. I get a lot of comments on my videos saying, well, peaceful protest doesn't work in, flag shagging and all this, that and the other, and singing songs is not working. It is working, because every single rally that's been held in London over the past couple of years has almost doubled in size by the next one that comes around. So a lot more people are waking up and joining the movement. A lot more people are realising that if you set your differences aside with certain people, like Tommy Robinson, for example, maybe you don't like Lawrence Fox, you don't want to see him speak, that's fine. You can not like people and still stand for something, you know. And if we don't stand for our freedom of speech and freedom of expression, then I think you're going to find it's just going to be taken away eventually. You know, there's talk of leaving the ECHR. We are still protected under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, so if we did leave the ECHR, it's not like your rights are going to get taken away. There is still framework for that in law and common law that protects us, you know. You've got the common law Christian something or other movement, CCAN. You've got that movement that's starting up as well, or they've been a while they've been going. I'm following the guys that are quite deep into that on TikTok. So there's a lot of information out there about movements and about how you can stand up for your rights, but you know, when you strip all of that away and you look at just the core idea of it is if you don't stand for your rights, what do you stand for? Really, what do you stand for? You know, we need to start standing up against this corruption and tyranny that we're all facing, the subjugation, the anti-dissenters. You know, you've got the left-wing nutcases. Yeah, I know, I've seen Epping. We might jump onto a live stream in a minute and have a little look, see what's going on there. But yeah, Epping at the moment, there's another protest outside the Bell Hotel in Epping. The police have been a little bit more organised this time and closed down roads and stuff. There was rumours of the far left agitators on their way there. That was about an hour ago. I don't know if they've made their way there yet, because I've been so busy. Basically, I've been having a nightmare trying to get all this sorted out. Because apparently every time I do a live stream I have to start from the beginning, and you wouldn't believe how many features I have to add in just to be able to switch to their way there. This screen, for example, that was about, and then switch back to that one. There's so many features on it, it's crazy. I don't know if you noticed as well on the intro, I've got the intro video sorted, the music licensing is sorted, I've got an ad for the middle of the episode sorted, and the outro as well. So I've been hard at work at my computer, clicking away and clacking and clicking and creating. And I've got the freedom to do that because of Article 10 of the ECHR and because of Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights as well, which both protect my right to freedom of speech and freedom of expression without the intervention by authorities. But what we're seeing in the UK right now is the authorities are overreaching. They're trying to close it down. They don't want us having a freedom of speech anymore because they're getting so much criticism from the public, and rightfully so, that they're terrified. So what does the protest do? Well, if 2 million people turn up on the 13th of September, it shuts London down, because there's already going to be 5 to 6 million people there anyway going about their everyday business. But if 2 million extra people turn up and they're marching through the streets, the bridges get shut down, the main roads around Westminster get shut down. That means that the traffic can't get in, people can't commute to and from work. You know, lunch breaks are off the menu. Like, you're just going to have to sit in the office and have lunch out of a lunchbox that day. You know, if there are any offices open on a Saturday, most people who work in offices generally get the weekend off. Lucky bastards. I wish I was the same. But the point is if more and more people turn up to these protests, if 2 million people turn up, then that's goal achieved. Because politicians can't ignore that. Media can't ignore that. There's going to be so many people talking about, why was London shut down on Saturday? Why couldn't I get from such and such to such and such station? Because there was 2 million people protesting against the government. You know, the footage of it is going to be so widespread on social media. There'll be live streams, there'll be videos taken, there'll be footage uploaded to the internet for days following. And it really will be a big event. And I'll be there, I'll be interviewing people for the podcast, and for my personal TikTok as well, which is now under my actual name, Jordan Pink. So I have changed from Masculine Emotion, and I'm looking at changing my X account as well shortly. The only trouble with that is people won't know when you've changed your name, and I don't want everyone to just stop retweeting and reposting my content as well, because it does have its downsides, just automatically changing your identity online. I was anonymous to begin with, but I feel like we've moved past the need to be anonymous anymore. We all need to, you know, put our names and faces out there and say, I'm against this. I'm against the suppression of freedom of speech. I'm against the suppression of our rights. At the end of the day, this is all for our children, because we want our children to grow up in the same world where we've had the privilege of being able to speak our mind. And if we don't fight for that, we're going to lose it, and our kids won't have that, you know. And if you don't stand for the children, well, then what do you stand for? You know, as far as I'm concerned, it's nothing, you know, because the future generation, the children are our future generation, and they're so important. And because of that, our rights are so important to protect and fight for as well. So anyway, I'm going to jump into a little bit of information I've got stored here. So the future generation, I talked about exercise Pegasus the other day. And I didn't actually go into detail about what it was. So this is going to be the largest ever national pandemic response exercise to strengthen. I'm going to jump into the government's pandemic planning has been stepped up in response to recommendations from the COVID-19 Inquiry Module 1 report. That's the part where they didn't go into detail about what it was. All of the politicians. So this is going to be the largest ever pandemic. Millions, if not billions, out. I'm going to jump into taxpayers' money, profit. The government's pandemic. So what does it consist of? Well, it seems pretty straightforward. Pandemic planning stepped up with unprecedented exercise between government, emergency service, and nations and regions. What that reads to me is they're going to lockstep all of these services, all of these establishments, all of these institutions, you know, possibly against the people or possibly for the people. With the current government in place, I don't see it being the what that reads to me is they're going to lockstep. Over 4,000 resilience and emergency workers are trained every year through the UK Resilience Academy. Well, if you know as much as I do about possibly against the people, you know, it was as far as I'm concerned, it was just flu rebranded. Don't see it being convince me if it wasn't. What that reads to me, you know, at the end of the day, they've got a new tool built by the Cabinet Office and the Office for National Statistics, which will help identify vulnerable groups needing targeted support. If you know anything about NG 163, you'll know that there's probably more nefarious reasons for that too. And a national test of the emergency alert system will take place. Now, there are ways of switching that off if you're not interested, if you don't want to receive them reports or them alerts. I know that on iPhone, if you just go into your settings and you go into notifications, which is and a national test of the emergency. The third set of settings there, go into notifications and you scroll straight down the bottom. I don't know if you're going to be able to pick this up on the camera, but you'll see two sections down there. One of them says extreme alerts and the other one says severe alerts. Now you can, using the switch, just switch switch them on and off. I don't know what it's like on Android. I did switch them off at first because I didn't want to be part of their games during the pandemic, but I've switched them back on since because I've been following this very big movement that's been going on since 2017. And as much as it seemed like it was a psyop for a few years, it's now starting to come into fruition in such an accelerated rate. I don't know if any of you watch politics in America, because there's an echo to this very big movement. I don't know whether that's because I've got... yeah, it might be. Hang on. How is it now? Is the sound better now? I can't actually hear the feed coming through, so... Oh yeah, that is bad. Right, hold on a minute. Let me see if I can figure out what's going on here. What the hell? This is the problem. I try and set it up and it's just chaos. God almighty. Bear with me, guys, I'll get this fixed. Let's have a look, see if we've got the... Has the echo stopped now? It's okay, right, let's carry on. Yeah, so where was I? Let's have a look. So, yeah, the emergency alert system. You can turn them off in your notification settings in your iPhone, I know that much. Android, I'm not too sure how the process is done, but I would imagine it's something similar. I don't know how much of the show's been a write-off so far. Has it been doing that from the start, Joanne? That's a nightmare. That's absolute chaos. I haven't actually recorded this one either, so it is what it is, I'm afraid. But yeah, like I say, it's every time I seem to go for a stream, it makes me build the whole thing again, the whole system again, which is a chaotic... I've spent basically the last hour and a half trying to get ready to record an episode and then ended up having to go live because of it. But yeah, so, right, the pandemic response. So it is an exercise. It might be completely innocent. It could be completely nefarious. It could be leading towards further restrictions, further lockdowns. They might even be running test lockdowns. So let's go into the last little bit of it. It says the country's preparation for future pandemics will be stepped up by the largest ever national response exercise due to be held in the autumn. Ministers have also set out plans to better support vulnerable groups, such as the elderly or those receiving care, and train thousands of public servants to handle a range of crises, including pandemics. These measures come in response to the COVID-19 Inquiry's Module 1 report, which examined the resilience and preparedness of the UK prior to the pandemic. So, we know what happened during the pandemic. It was a disaster. If it was a really, really deadly disease, it turns out it wasn't that deadly. For most people, you just brush it off like the flu. Ironically, on the World Health Organization's website, if you look at the statistics for the flu over 2020 and 2021, it disappeared off the face of the earth. Was replaced by COVID. So, for that reason, I'm utterly convinced that they just rebranded flu to pump fear into people and to see how much you guys, you and I, would, conform. Basically, it was a conform exercise because they wanted to see how far they could push us before we would start to show resistance and push back. So, just when I pulled up that page, okay, so it's not too bad. Hopefully, people watching back, or the people that have just tuned in, they won't be put off by that and run a mile, which is quite possible. But anyway, we'll move on. So, why is this a problem? Well, I see it as a problem because I see it as another way to push more top-down control on us. I don't know what these staff are being trained in. They're not being completely open and honest about it. Which staff are going to be trained? What are they going to be trained in? It says here, the third measure the government has taken to train over 4,000 people in resilience and emergency roles every year through the UK Resilience Academy. The training, which begins in April, will help practitioners plan for and manage a range of crises, including pandemics. It will be based on revised national occupational standards to ensure that people have the knowledge and skills they need to support them in their roles. And then it goes on to say they're going to carry out a national test of the emergency alert system later in 2023. So what that means basically is they're going to be training doctors, practitioners in how to handle a crisis. But why would the practitioners need training for that? You know, I mean, a lot of them basically didn't want to put the vaccine into people because it wasn't being given enough information beforehand. We weren't fully informed, and to be able to give informed consent, you need to be fully informed. That's just the process that all medical situations, all medical process is supposed to follow. So a lot of doctors, a lot of practitioners, a lot of GPs quit their jobs. They stood down, or they tried to speak out and they were cancelled, and forced out of their jobs. And what they were trying to say basically is that they didn't trust this vaccine that's only just come out. It hasn't been tested thoroughly enough. It seemed to have skipped a lot of the loopholes and red tape that a lot of other previous medicines have had to strictly and stringently follow. And then, of course, you've got the technology itself, the RNA technology, which has been questioned not only by some very well-respected scientists, heart surgeons, neurologists, cancer, oncologists and things like that, specialists that are absolutely respected in their field, that spoke out and have since been, again, systematically cancelled, shut down, sacked from their jobs, or they've stood down out of their own moral principles. And fair play to them. Anyone who did that, I mean, you just had a doctor that's just got off now, very recently, with giving his patients vaccine cards like they'd been given the dose, but without actually giving it to him. And he had to stand up in court and defend himself for that. Now, thankfully, he's been found not guilty, and he's been basically cleared of all charges. So I do hope that he plans to sue his own surgery from that, the people that pushed him out the door and smeared his good name, because he's got every right to do so. But if there wasn't risks with it, then how come the government have a compensation scheme for people that have been harmed by vaccines? To the tune of £125,000 per person. Now, I know if you've got life-changing injuries from that, that's not going to be a patch on what you could be earning prospectively if you're out of work now for the rest of your life. But it is tax-free. It is compensation. You are entitled to it. So if you don't know about that, go on the gov.uk website and just type in vaccine injury compensation, and you'll find it. In fact, let's do it now, and we'll do it together. So there's nothing wrong with it. Gov.uk vaccine damage claim. There we go. So if you have a look here, if you're severely disabled as a result of a vaccination against a certain disease, you could get a one-off tax-free payment of £120,000. You can also apply on someone else's behalf if you're under 16 and you're their parent or guardian, if they're not able to manage their own affairs and you act as their representative, or if they've died and you manage their estate. Now, I don't know how many people are even aware of this, to be honest with you. They haven't exactly advertised it, and they haven't told people about it. But it is there and it's available. So ask yourself the question, why? Why is it there? Why is it available? Why is it all of a sudden just there, on the Gov website? Well, because they know. They know what's happened. They know what they've done. They know what they pushed out. They know it didn't have proper testing. They know that it skipped through red tape and loopholes to get through the FDA approval in America, which then had a knock-on effect and got approved over here. It's almost like 6 companies were just basically given a buttload of money from the government to come up with whatever they could at the time because they needed to sell a solution to the problem they'd already created. And I do believe this is another one of their dirty tricks. Create the problem, wait for the reaction, and bring on the pre-prepared solution. Especially when you look up I'm not going to go into it now because I can't remember how to get there. It's quite a path. But if you look up the patent websites and stuff like that, especially in American patent websites, there is a patent for the vaccine for the COVID-19, which was registered in 2015. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's 5 years. 5 years before the virus appeared. And I thought the virus was created by people eating bats or possibly leaked from a lab in Wuhan. We don't know the origins of the virus. Well, if you've done your research, you do. And it's to do with Anthony Fauci's gain of function research, which is basically another tool of the devil. So being able to speak about these things is absolutely crucial. And again, it comes back to freedom of speech. Did the doctors that tried to warn everybody about the dangers of taking this thing, especially if you're not one of the vulnerable groups, them doctors, did they have freedom of speech throughout 2020 and 2021? Did they have freedom of speech? No, they were shut down. They were cancelled. They had their platforms taken away. Their jobs, they lost their careers. Their reputations were completely tarnished. And then you've got people like Mike Yeadon, the ex-CEO of Pfizer, coming out and talking against it. You've got the guy that literally created the RNA technology coming out and saying it should never have been used in a medicine. It should never have been used. It was experimental technology. They don't know what it could do. They don't know what the effects are going to be 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, and then all these other GPs and heart specialists are now since come out and said, look, I'm seeing a spike in this condition and that condition, have since been deplatformed, have been silenced. And then you've got the flip side of that as well. Doctors like Dr. Ranj, big TV doctor, started off on CBeebies, quite famous, came on morning talk shows and, said how effective and how brilliant it was, and yet it wasn't. And it turns out later on, we found out that they took payments from one of the vaccine companies to sit there and say that on live national television. I'm going to jump in the comments really quickly. Joanne's made a couple of comments here, so nobody will take any notice if it's the big one, as in a double bluff. Yeah, it could be a double bluff. They could be expecting and anticipating a pushback and a lot of dissenters not conforming. And something really quite dangerous could be released. There's always that risk. You have to be severely disabled, and even people that died haven't received compensation. It's difficult to prove it was the gibby I claimed. Yeah, exactly. For that, you're going to have a GP that stands by you with it as well. And as far as I'm concerned, most of them with morals and scruples quit throughout that period. They're no longer GPs, or they went private and started their own surgeries, So they're hard-pressed and few and far between, but they do exist and they are out there. And there's nothing stopping you reaching out to one of the ones that are on social media, quite prominently on X at the moment, talking about this sort of thing. I do actually follow one or two of them. I'll see if I can get a name up for the show. Let's have a look. So obviously, there are doctors on social media that speak out. They speak loud and proud. A lot of them are American because obviously RFK Jr. taking over the health service in America. They've come out and they've jumped on board and they're all for it. They're all for scrutiny of all medicines, really. Their effectiveness, their addictiveness, the downsides, the after effects of taking them. So Dr. Simon Godek is one of them. He's a doctor. You can speak to him for advice. There are many doctors out there that are speaking out loudly. And then there's other, content creators as well, such as Jim Ferguson, for one. He's very, very focused on this at the moment. And I think I'm going to bring up some posts on X, actually, about this. Because I think it might be useful for people, especially if you're seeing this for the first time. On being able to find help, find people to be able to speak to about this, or even get advice from. So if you just type doctor, usually if you follow people, just click on people I follow, Dr. Simon Godek, Here's one. He's talking about glyphosate. Glyphosate is basically what they spray on vegetables, food, anything they grow at the moment. You know, it's not good for you. They're linking it to cancer. So here's a post from Jim Ferguson. Now, I don't know if the sound's going to come through all right on this, if I'm speaking at the same time. So what I'm going to do, wind the video back. Let's pause it for a second. I'm going to just jump into my streaming settings, and I'm going to mute my microphone. You know, it's not good for you. They're linking it to cancer. So here's a post.
One tiny creepy thing that
now, I don't know if the
I can't remember if Kate mentioned it or I found it independently. So
what I'm going
the British National Health Service has long called for people to donate organs, and being a fine supportive citizen, all my life I've carried a donor card, all my organs, on the grounds that I could die in a bike accident or just keel over in the street and I want someone's benefit. I can't remember if Kate now I have learned that you can't remove the British National Health Service and transplants unless you're to donate bluntly, you have to still be alive. You have to have blood circulation, must be oxygen in the blood. So either a machine is ventilating you and dying upon your heart is pushing the blood around, because once you're dead, after a relatively short period of time, pretty much all the organs are useless. Remove the British National Health Service and transplants unless you're to donate bluntly. You have to.
We're having a nightmare. I'm going to have to figure out why the sound is not working on the separate file at the moment. It's absolutely a pain in the arse, it really is. I think I need a technician to help me run this podcast, because it's like trying to get your head around theoretical physics when you don't even know science. But like I say, there are doctors out there that you're able to speak to. There are doctors online. There's going to be people exposing this, and at the moment in Holland, there are court cases. Well, there's a Supreme Court case at the moment in Holland, which actually Jim Ferguson's been following. Let's see if we can. See if we can get this up. Jim Ferguson. I know he's been following. I think he's actually been out there reporting on it. So I won't play the video because I don't want to screw my voice over in the background. But World on Trial, Gates, Borla and Rutte face crimes against humanity. So the global court case the media won't touch until now. I joined Shannon Joy to expose the explosive trial unfolding in Leeuwarden, Netherlands, where a court case is hearing charges of genocide, biological warfare and crimes against humanity. The accused, Bill Gates, Albert Bourla, Mark Rutte, Klaus Schwab and others tied to the COVID machine. But here's the bombshell. Arno van Kessel, the lead attorney taking on the globalists, was blindfolded, handcuffed and dragged from his home by armed police. Now he's being held in a maximum security prison with no formal charges. Is this justice, or a desperate move to bury the truth before it reaches the world? The globalists are terrified, and then he says, watch this interview before it disappears. So if you're on X, jump on there, go and have a look what that's all about. I wish I could play it right now, but I'm having such technical difficulties. I don't even know where they're coming from, but it's being a bit of a pain in the balls, if I'm completely honest, because I'm getting echoes and echoes. Dr. David Cartland is another. Yes, that is true. Let's have a look and see what Dr. David Cartland's been saying recently. I do follow him as well. Here we go. So this is Dr. David Cartland. He is still a doctor, still knowledgeable, still ethical, still medically qualified, still compassionate, and still advocating for patient safety. Now, bearing in mind that, you know, we're going to see some of his retweets and stuff like that as well. So many ordinary people globally have been abandoned by the very governments that asked them to do the right thing, and yet the same governments are refusing to do the right thing. And that is absolutely true. So let's get this up on the screen. So Dr. David Cartland has been very outspoken about the effects of the vaccine and stuff like that as well. I don't even know if these videos are just going to start auto-playing and drowning me out. But he's also been talking about damages linked to certain things that you can research this yourself as well. Don't just take his word for it. But if you jump in and have a look at who he follows as well, then you're probably going to be along the lines of finding quite a lot of people that you can get this information from. And he's also got his own website as well. Let's jump on there and have a look and see what he's saying on his own website. So, about this service, few people are unaware of the extreme pressures facing the NHS and primary care services such as GP practices. Unfortunately, in many circumstances, these pressures often lead to lengthy waiting times or a rushed and inadequate service. Furthermore, we're now seeing the dire consequences of global events of the last 4 years. We know what he's talking about, but he's being subtle. With huge numbers of people suffering serious complications from the mass rollout of untested, unproven experimental therapies, but with patients then being gaslit by the medical profession, the very people who actively promoted the therapies and who encouraged or even gave the injections. So I did talk about this a minute ago. It comes back down to freedom of speech again. And it seems like every problem at the moment comes back down to an attack of freedom of speech. Because if these doctors weren't silenced, suppressed, deplatformed, sacked, threatened with their livelihoods to shut up, and many, many more instances, different examples of how, you know, their speech, their freedom of speech was being attacked, then we wouldn't have had this problem. Because people would have had a lot more information before going to take this experimental therapy, and they would have had what is called informed consent, which should be the case for every medicine you take. It's the reason why when you go and get a prescription from the doctors and you get your little box of tablets, there's always a paper insert in there. Now, if you actually pull that paper insert out and read it, there is a list of side effects. They have to, by law, put them on there. That's called informed consent. That's what we didn't get with the vaccine for 2020, 2021. You know, it just, we had queues of thousands of people outside doctors' surgeries going in, sitting down, getting the shot, and then being told, well, you can't leave for 10, 15 minutes in case you have an adverse reaction. After the fact. I took two. I know this. I'm speaking from experience. I did go. And the second time, they didn't even let me wait 10, 15 minutes. They just sent me straight out the door, and on my way home I nearly collapsed. And then I started seeing videos on TikTok about how bad this was and stuff like that. I just turned a blind eye to it because I was completely distracted, like all the other people, sucked in by the big bright yellow and black boxes on the TV underneath the Prime Minister's front desk and everything. Suckered into it by the propaganda machine. You know, fell for it, hook, line and sinker. Biggest regret of my life, if I'm honest. Absolutely biggest regret of my life. You know, and I may well have to live with the consequences for that for the rest of my life. I'm certainly feeling them at the moment, and I have been for a few years. I've done detox programs, and there are detox programs out there, and again, you'll find this information by following certain doctors online as well that are outspoken about it. So if you're having trouble with the after effects of any medicines you've taken, and it might not be that, it might be something else, please do your own research. That's all I will say. You know, and if you're having problems and you're affected, you have every right to speak up about it. And that's why such a big rally like this one on September the 13th is important for you guys too. You know, if you've been injured or if you've been taken advantage of in your private medical life, then you're one of these people that needs to be there speaking up, or at least standing with everybody that's prepared to speak up on your behalf. You know, we need millions of people there this time. We're running out of time, and we need 1 million, 2 million, maybe even 3 million people just to come in and shut down the capital of this country, because they won't be able to ignore that anymore. They won't be able to hide it and sweep it under the carpet. Mainstream media won't have any choice but to report on it, because otherwise they'll be losing their literal careers to independent journalists. Elon Musk, when he bought Twitter, cleared out the bad influence behind the scenes in the background. If you know, you know, the FBI Twitter files. Anyway, he then took the training wheels off of X, off of Twitter, took the training wheels off, and it became a free speech platform. Now, that has benefits. It does have downsides too. Any old idiot can post anything they want, and you might have to just wait for the community notes to correct them, or ask Grok if what they're saying is true. Grok isn't very based though. I will say it's almost like the most liberal left wing moron in the world has programmed Grok. There are other AIs that will just tell you straight how it is, like Gab AI. And if you follow the Q movement, there's a new one called Jarvis AI, which for a small donation to the guy that built it by himself, or with a couple of friends' help, you can get access to an AI that can decode all the Q drops and stuff like that. AI is definitely moving forwards. What I would say though is I don't suggest using it all the time for everyday stuff. Allow your brain to keep working, because if we rely on AI too much, we're going to become a dumb people. Much like them fat, dumb things in Wall-E. I don't know if you've seen the Disney movie Wall-E, where they're all sitting on floating couches and they're literally just eating all day, and not even thinking for themselves. And eventually, the little robot comes along and saves humanity, saves mankind. If only real life was full of happy endings and good stories like that. At the moment it seems to be filled with a lot more shit than it is good. But I digress. We'll move on to the next little bit of research I've been doing. Actually, do you know what? Let's skip the research for now and let's have a little bit of a fun moment. I've got a couple of videos on TikTok here. If I go into my messages, and shout out to one of my followers, Knots420, who's just sent me a couple. I really don't know whether the sound's going to come through. This is the only problem. We'll give it a go and we'll see what happens. Just bear with me for a minute while they're loading up. See, that's another thing as well. When you're streaming and loading things at the same time, it can take forever. Page is unresponsive. Well, respond then. I don't want to download the video. Now, I don't know if we're going to get any sound through from that. Right. I don't know about you guys, I'm with EE internet and it's been absolutely shocking the last day or, a few days. So, okay, right, let's scrap that off then. That's not working either. I'm going to tell you what, I'm having a right nightmare with technology tonight. It's killing me. It's killing the show. I think I might have to do the next episode pre-recorded if the internet hasn't sorted itself out. I've had to complain twice and they still haven't sorted it out. But, yeah, technological error. Let's write it off down to technological error. So there's really not that much else I can bring at the moment, which is a frickin' ball ache. I think I've just figured out what's going on. I think I've just figured it out. I have, for some reason in the background on one of these tabs, I had the frickin' podcast playing. Ugh. I had a feeling it wasn't going to be technological and it was my fault. Sometimes I can be such a fucking idiot. Well, I'm new to this. I learned how to be a chef for 13 years and then became a martial arts instructor and then a gardener. And now I'm trying to get a jet washing business off the ground. So I've never been a programmer, but I've just realised what the frigging problem is. So we might be able to get back and get some coherent stuff out of this now. Right, okay. Bear with me, Joe. I'm going to need you here to let me know. Is it echoing? Oh, for fuck's sake. Come on with you waiting on the pages. Is it echoing? Or is it actually alright? Come on, load, for fuck's sake. Waiting. No, exit page. Let's reload it. Come on, TikTok. Don't fucking let me down. God almighty. Do you know TikTok online on the PC is literally the slowest loading website on earth. Kudos to TikTok for making such a good mobile app and then swanning it down the fucking toilet with a shit fucking PC version. Okay, so outside a migrant hotel, Norfolk police officer admits they're informed all the time about children being followed to and from school. Is it going to play though? That's the question. Waiting. Still waiting. Waiting still. Oh my god, waiting so long. Play video. Play video. Come on. I bet people that do live TV shows don't face this much fucking problem. You know, you don't see this happening on X Factor, do you? Still waiting, bloody bastard. Come on there. Why not play? Here we go. Oh. Are you going to play? I'm still waiting, bastard. Maybe it's not just me. Okay. Throughout your meetings and stuff, when you go. So what we're getting? It's just frozen again. Oh, for fuck's sake! TikTok, you're sacked. Not having it. Right. Well, if we don't have TikTok, we can't play videos on X because it's all coming through babbled. Then we're just going to have to, I think, wing it for the rest of the show. I've got about 10 minutes left to go, so I'll pretty much be able to fill that with chit-chat. So, yeah. So, as I was saying, our free speech, our freedom of expression, even, I think I'm being gang-stalked here. The amount of problems I've had today, you wouldn't believe it. I think someone's literally hacked me and gang-stalked me. Which is another episode I'm going to be coming into very soon, actually. I've been doing a bit of research on gang stalking, on MK Ultra, CIA, different techniques that people have used over the years. If you think it doesn't happen, you're wrong. It does. Some people are targeted for speaking the truth. I've been targeted by the censor machine myself for speaking the truth. But some people, so much so that they've had tracking devices and data control devices put inside their mattresses when they bought a mattress online. Someone's then infiltrated that delivery and put a tracking tag in there and put EMF dispensal tags and stuff in there, which I don't know if you know what they are. Little devices that just put out EMF radiation constantly. So even when you put your phone down and you're away from that source of EMF radiation, and you might not have a 5G tower outside your door, or one of these fancy new lamp posts, the flat ones with the little thing on top, pumping out EMF radiation. Even if you're protected from all of that, they might still get you one way or another. So yeah, gang stalking is very real, and I'm going to go into some evidence for that as well. There is some stuff on WikiLeaks. I won't have videos lined up for that one because it's bloody driving me mad. I think I'll do a test stream which is locked down so that only I can see it before the next live stream, just purely because of the amount of technical difficulty I've had tonight, and I don't think it's coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence that I've had to go in and completely reset up the whole system from the ground up every time I've gone live. I think there might be some shenanigans at play, but hey, I'm just a conspiracy theorist, so what would I know? Or I'm just 6 months ahead of the news. I don't know, maybe. But anyway, freedom of speech, let's get back on task. So September the 13th in London. More details will come out closer to the time for the meeting point. It's usually somewhere near Victoria Station or one of the big train stations anyway, where they start, and they usually march to Westminster from a designated meeting point. You can avoid all that and just wait at the designated meeting point if you're not able to walk long distances. Have I ever thought of buying something and it comes up on ads? I don't know what. Oh yeah. Oh god, yeah. That's another thing as well. The surveillance. My god, yeah. That's all part of it as well. Where you sit there talking to the missus, oh, I might buy a new lawnmower, and then you open Facebook and the first thing jumps up is a fucking ad for a lawnmower. Oh yeah, I've had that happen to me many times. And ask yourself this, why did they all of a sudden stop having batteries that you could take out of your phone, and now they're built in, you can't take them out anymore? And even when your phone runs out of battery, you can still track it on Find My iPhone. I think there's probably the same on Android if they've got some sort of tracking system on there. So when your battery dies, it's not actually dead. It's still holding power. So even if you turn your phone off fully, it's probably able to listen to you then. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. And also iPhones, now you got the Face ID technology that you can scan your face and unlock it and all the rest of it. It takes 10,000 infrared pictures of your face every minute. You know, if you get an infrared camera and then have a look at the front of an iPhone, you'll just see infrared waves pulsing, coming out of the phone constantly. This technology does exist, you know. People were finding recording and listening devices in fucking vapes coming from China. If you think governments aren't fighting each other for your data, for every little information about every little aspect of your life, then you're just oblivious and ignorance is bliss. And that's great. But people out there are recording every little thought and every little move that you make in your life. And that's another clampdown on freedoms, you know. We should be able to have a private life. Every man has a right to a private life. Every woman has a right to a private life. Every child. And yet, that's not what we're getting anymore. There is no such thing as privacy. If you've got an electronic device within 20 feet of you, it can probably listen to everything you say. And there's going to come a point where they're going to use these new bureaucracy laws and new technocracy laws and all this shit. They're going to use it to clamp down on people. They're going to use it to clamp down on everything. You know, you won't be able to have a conversation privately with your wife anymore or your husband about anything, because the next thing you know, you could have the Minority Report squad smashing your fucking door through for a pre-crime that you haven't committed. You know, we're already seeing people put in prison for years for non-crime, hate crime incidents. And it's like, hold on, it literally says non-crime on the tin. Like, what are we doing here? Why are we putting people in prison for non-crimes? You know, we've got peace and love in the chat. I heard today from January, if your conversation is longer than 10 minutes, it will be recorded. Absolutely true. I saw that on GB News today. Yep, that is a new thing now. Your mobile phone provider will automatically record every phone conversation you have if it's longer than 10 minutes, unless it is with emergency services or some other protected services. Or you've got the exemption, like diplomatic fucking immunity or whatever. It's ridiculous. It is beyond crazy. I mean, the world we're living in has become more and more of a prison, you know. So all the more reason to turn up in September, to do your part, be there, be one of the numbers. Let's make it massive. Let's make it the biggest staged protest in the history of the United Kingdom. If we can get millions of people there, get your friends, get your family, get your kids. I promise you, I've been to these events. They don't kick off. As long as you stay away from the pubs afterwards and just get yourself home, you won't witness any trouble. I know that the police do try their tactics, especially City of London police. They go under a completely different set of rules over there. City of London's not actually part of the United Kingdom. It is sovereign, and for that reason they needed their own police force, or Stasi if you want to call them that. So, you know, it's a peaceful, friendly, always a really good atmosphere. It's not just white people. It's not just fucking skinheads like me. I have to shave my head because I'm going bald, so I don't really have a choice in the matter, to be fair. And that's not even genetic. It's just because I wore a hat through most of my teenage and 20s. So I've fucked myself up there a little bit. Now I'm going to be bald forever. With the goatee, it looks like I've got my head on upside down sometimes. Quite funny, but hey, is what it is. My wife's starting to get used to it. I've got to have some hair on my head, surely, you know what I mean? Just eyebrows is not enough, is it? So I grow the goatee. But yeah, I'm going off track. I'm rambling again. But yeah, if we can get as many people there as possible, on Saturday, the 13th of September, we're looking at possibly the biggest turning point in the political landscape of Britain, of the United Kingdom, and possibly being able to force real change. You know, also, I've been telling everybody, join Advance UK as a political party, join Restore Britain as a grassroots movement, a real grassroots movement, not what Reform UK claim to be, but what they should be. Rupert Lowe's got hundreds of thousands of members there now. If they want a petition sorted out, if there's a lot of talk within the group, within the chats about a certain subject, and a petition's the best course of action to get something done on that, they'll launch a petition now and it will have the 100 signatures within hours. Not days, not weeks, hours. It's a really effective tool for putting pressure on the government, because they can't ignore it. They tried to ignore the Lucy Connolly petition. That reached 100,000 signatures in less than a day. And the government gave some bullshit response to that, basically trying to deny that they're going to talk about it and debate it. It was something along the lines of, we support the police in the judiciary in prosecuting people to the full extent of the law if they're inciting violence. They weren't inciting violence. They weren't inciting violence at all. Especially Lucy Connolly. She was like, look, I don't care if you burn the place down. I didn't care if they burnt the place down. I think I even turned around and said that to one of my friends at the time. You know, but just because she tweeted about it, she's getting blamed for inciting the violence. Who incited the violence, really, was Keir Starmer standing on a pedestal and lying to the people, gaslighting the people, telling us it's far-right aggressors, far-right thugs are the problem. It's not really. We all knew it was going to turn out that this kiddie was part of an Islamic terrorist network. It just so happened to have an Al-Qaeda handbook and enough rice in to drop 100,000 people in his bedroom, which he'd made from the handbook. So, if he'd have got away with the stabbing incident in Southport, he might well have gone on to commit such a heinous crime that we wouldn't even be sat here having this discussion anymore. You know? So, yeah. Also, what else we got in the comments? We've got the Shield link to Hancock's. Yeah, we're going to do a podcast about that. I'm hoping to go get Linny to come on and do a podcast with me. We'll do an expose on that. We'll gather some more evidence and make sure we've got the receipts to bring with it. But yes, indirectly, the organisation, the CIC that the Shield comes under, is connected to the Hancock family. A wedding venue, I believe, is the same address as the umbrella company, if you like, for the Shield. So yeah, there's some dodgy shenanigans going on there, and we do want to expose that because people are paying a fair bit. I mean, it's quite a bit of money, £55 to pay for the privilege of patrolling your streets. If that many people are interested in patrolling their streets, they should just do it. Just do it. Just go out and start patrolling your streets. Bump into people doing the same thing. Form your groups that way. We used to be able to build communities. We used to be able to network. We used to be able to meet people, like-minded people, by doing the same things. If you like rock climbing, you could meet people that like rock climbing by going fucking rock climbing. So if you want to keep your streets safe, you'll meet other people that want to keep the streets safe by going and just keeping the streets safe. You know, and it works with every area at the end of the day. It's not hard. It's just I think sometime during 2020 we all fucking forgot how to do it. You know, we all got so boxed in and forced away from having real connections with people that we no longer know how to have that connection with people. You know, I mean, when I go to London, I bump into people that I've never met in my life, and they go, fucking hell, it's masculine emotion. Can I have a selfie with you? You know, and they hug me and say, thank you for what you do. It's brilliant. You woke me up. You woke my sister up. You know, I don't know these people, but I fucking love it. It's great. I'll embrace that, you know. If I'm making people wake up and do research, God, I've done what I've set out to achieve in the very first place. Sorry about keep coughing, guys, by the way. I've still got the tail end of that man flu that I've been dealing with. So, listen, I'm going to leave it there. We're going to call it a night there. I'm going to put my Swish outro up in a minute, and hopefully that plays without any hiccups. And then I'm going to watch this episode back and probably have my head in my hands about all the technical difficulties I've had this evening. But lesson learned on not to have YouTube playing in the fucking background in the window when I'm trying to play what I'm doing, because it really fucked with everything. And I think it completely knackered my internet connection as well by the looks of it. I don't even know if this is coming across very well at all, but hey, I tried my best. I didn't have as much time as I wanted to prepare the stream, because I was having to go through and redo everything I'd done last time and the time before and the time before. Maybe I'm being gang-stalked, maybe I am, I don't know. But anyway, listen, you know, it's really, really important that we get ourselves there in September the 13th. I'm going to do a shout out for it every week. And one last thing as well, before we do go, I just want to show you all not this. He can shut up now, he's had his chance. Fucking idiot. Article 10 clothing. Now, I've worked really hard on this shop. I don't know what I'm doing, but it does work. Someone has made a purchase. As far as I'm aware, they've received their order. It was, I think they went with the article. They went with the t-shirt of this. So Article 10 guarantees the right of freedom of expression. This right encompasses the freedom to hold opinions and to receive and impart information and ideas without interference from public authorities. And again, that is exactly what this protest on the 13th of September is all about. It's going to be massive. I really do hope you can be there. And we've just got another window I want to pop up here. And this one here is some new designs I've got coming into the store over the next few days when I've got time to put them onto t-shirts and upload them, or jumpers. So if we don't stand up for children, then we don't stand for anything. Absolutely true. You know, Bill Gates, riddle me this. I've started doing a kind of if Carlsberg did supervillains type series. So we've got here Klaus Schwab dressed up as Dr. No. If the WEF did Bond villains, you know. If Dr. Zeus wrote twat in a hat. Now that one is a personal favourite. Absolute belter. Oh shit, I've gone off the fucking page yet. Absolute belter. If Klaus Schwab wrote twat in a hat. Because he is a massive twat in a hat. And also government BS detector. This was all part of the poll that I did last week. I don't know if you guys have noticed the community tab yet. So this is a dog chipped and a cat chipped and a human chipped, and it says no thanks Bill Gates. That's going on t-shirts. Who's running the world? Don't follow the herd. Very simple, child friendly designs as well, because I did look back at the store and thought some of that's a lot of tongue-in-cheek stuff on there. So I'm going to open it up and make it a little bit more family friendly. Think for yourself, obviously. Climate change is cyclical, not an excuse for taxes. You know, I'm covering a lot of different things here, and the agenda. Say no to the tech lords. Your choice, use your voice. See through the lies. Swim against the narrative. Soar above the agenda, and then you got the Bilderberg down here. Don't trust the plan, because we've been told to trust the plan, so let's not do that. Escape the madness. Seek the truth. Think for yourself. How many genders? 2, obviously. Tax the rich, lose the rich. Teach the truth, not the trends, you know, like the transgender movement and stuff like that, infiltrating the schools. Logic over feelings. Trust the science says XX and XY. I don't discriminate, I hate everyone equally. I had that on a Backy tin a few years ago, and I just liked the saying, so I figured, well, why not whack it on a t-shirt and see what's going on. So them designs will be coming throughout the course of next week. You can see hang on, let's get rid of that one quickly. The link for the store is on the main channel. Let's have a look. Oh, there we go. It's on the main channel, and it's right there. Article 10 clothing, myshopify.com. You click that, that take you to the store. So as I say, I'm going to try and upload those over the next few days and get them out as quickly as possible. But in the meantime, listen guys, just stay sharp, stay focused, do your research, and speak your voice, speak your mind, because there'll come a time one day, if we don't keep using it, that we're going to lose it. And on that note, I think I'm going to end it there. So take care guys, much love, and I'll see you next time. Yeah.